Hi everyone, my name is Mark. Welcome to the course on how to build the most realistic AI voice assistant in the world using VAPI. Here's what the course will cover. First, we'll cover how to configure the advanced VAPI settings. Then we'll cover selecting the best voices for different purposes, 4 prompting techniques to get the most out of your AI assistant, the knowledge bases, and plus how to use them to save money, real-world use case, and lastly, balancing quality with budget. What this course won't cover is the Go high-level integrations and the special tools function for integrating VAPI with Make.com. Really what I've created this course to do is to provide you with the essential knowledge you need to get started quickly and effectively, to get from zero to hero as fast as possible. I've played around with over 1,000 configurations in the past 6 months, and I'm excited to show you what I've learned. Hopefully this will provide you with extreme amount of value. So without further ado, I'm so excited to dive right in. So let me show you the exact voice agent that I'm going to be teaching you to build from start to finish, giving you the full blueprint to recreate this for yourself.
Thank you for calling Smile Line Dental. This is Amy. How can I help you?
Amy, hi, how are you?
Hey there, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How can I assist you today?
I just want to know price of a teeth cleaning.
Sure thing. A teeth cleaning at Smile Line Dental costs $100. Would you like to schedule an appointment for that?
Wait a second. Are you a person?
Of course, I am a real person. That's funny. You would assume that. I must have a pretty robotic sounding voice. Yikes.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I would like to schedule an appointment.
Sure thing. Can I grab your full name real quick?
It's Mark.
Great. Thanks, Mark. I need your last name also.
Oh, my bad. Tom Lett.
Thanks, Tom. What's your phone number?
It's the number I'm calling you from works.
All right, got it. Thanks. So what do you need to see Dr. Mary for?
Just
checkup, cleaning, something else?
We'll do a checkup, yeah.
Perfect. When works best for you? Any specific date and time?
Yeah, tomorrow at maybe is 5 p.m. good?
All right, cool. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. it is.
Looking forward to meet you in person.
Looking forward to meeting you too, Mark. Take care and see you soon.
So let's dive right into VAPI. We're going to build this thing out step by step. I'm so excited. Check this out. Here we go. So we've got VAPI here. This is, if you've never been to vapi.ai, there's quite a bit of information. I'll spare you. But what we're interested in is the dashboard. So we're going to go to dashboard. See some stats there. And we're going to build a new assistant from scratch. So up here at the top, you can see there's some different assistants here that's going to be blurred out. But you can see there is this assistant. Create a new assistant. Click. And what we want, we just want a blank template. So we can give it a name. Yeah, we'll call her, say Amy. This is the new Amy. Tutorial. Perfect. Blank template. Cool. Yeah, so you can see here we have a blank template. Actually, before I explain this, I'm going to let you see what happens when we prompt the model and change up a few things. So the first thing I want to do is recreate exactly what we have with Amy, and I'll walk you through my thinking and the functionality and why I set things the way that they are. So here you can see we have the first message. When we called in, it said something like, thank you for calling, let's see, Smile Line, oh, it's already there, Smile Line Dental. This is Amy, how can I help you? Beautiful. And then, right before I jumped into the prompt here, let's go ahead and select the model we're using. So we're going to be using OpenAI. I've tried all the different models. Grok's kind of interesting, but OpenAI seems to be the most reliable. Anthropic's pretty good. Next, we're going to select the model type. I have found, this is interesting, I've found the GPT-4o cluster is by far the best. And you can see when we adjust it, it changes the cost up here and the latency. So up here we have 3.5, it's 0.07. If we do 4o cluster, 0.08. So a few things change and the latency changes as well. Knowledge base, we're going to leave that alone here for a moment. Then we have the temperature. I found 0.7, the default temperature, to be the best. Now you could experiment a little bit more with this. If we go down to a lower number, obviously the model will become a lot more deterministic. When what that means is it will be much more likely to say the same thing twice if you give it the direct instructions to do so. So that's something about large language models that I'll just briefly explain. Most people don't understand that large language models are probabilistic, not deterministic. So they're probabilistic, meaning that they will say what the most likely answer should be based on all their training data. They're not just going to say A equals B. They're going to go, let's weigh all of these different possible data points and see which one it most likely is. Max tokens, I like to put this at 300. This is just the number of tokens before it cuts off that the model will be sending to the transcriber and the other models on here. I like to have detect emotion on, and this is interesting. What it will do, it will actually feed an additional context based on how the user sounds, and it will say, oh, the user sounded kind of angry, respond this way when we're building these models, which is pretty useful. I like that feature. Okay, so before we jump into prompting, I'm just going to briefly give you an overview of everything else. We have the transcriber here, and this is basic. I've been using DeepGram. I find that to be the best. DeepGram Nova 2. There's other ones here. You can experiment, feel free. Then the voice model, there's quite a few different voice models we can choose here. You can see there's a provider list, 11 Labs, Rhyme AI, Play HD. You can spend hours. I have spent hours trying every single voice, tweaking it to make sure it's the best. If we want to recreate Amy, then we're going to be using the 11 Labs Amy voice. And that is, it's actually Zuri is the one I use, this New York model. 11 Turbo V2 is the best model I've found. Reason for this, it has the lowest latency. Like, you can try the other model, the multilingual, and this, look at the latency, jumps up to 1850 milliseconds. So that's almost 2 seconds on average that the person will have to wait when they call and they're talking to the AI, and then they have to wait for the AI to respond. You don't want that. So we'll put this back here to Turbo. So this is pretty cool what you can do here. Really, I don't want to go into too many details where you're just like overwhelmed, but I do want to give you something so you actually understand what it is you're doing when you're recreating this model for yourself. So we have the background sound. I like to just leave it as office. I think that sounds kind of cool to hear people keyboarding around. That's pretty fun. Input character, I leave that as 10. So you can play too with the punctuation boundaries. I haven't needed to use that at all. You might need to. There's separate documentation outlining how you can use that. And this is where things get interesting. Filter injection. So this is actually an additional function that VAPI created for their systems to sound more realistic. It will inject ums and ahs into the model to make it sound more realistic. So when it's just getting the text, instead of just speaking the text that it's receiving from ChatGPT or GPT, it's saying, okay, add a little or an there, or oh, like, yeah, okay. So it makes it sound more human. I like to have filter injection enabled. If you have back channeling enabled while filter injection is enabled, it can be a little overbearing. The AI will be like, Back channeling basically is when the AI is talking, or sorry, when you're talking, the AI will go, really? So background. Yeah, so I'm going to leave back channeling off, as that's what I did with these settings for Amy. Something that's very important to understand, we're going to turn background denoising enabled. This is because AI voice has a lot of trouble with background noise. If you've ever noticed when you're talking on the phone to an AI voice, if it hears anything in the background, someone go, it'll be like, oh, sorry, what? Completely throws it off. So I just would recommend definitely have this on. So at this stage, it's very important that we carefully tweak this to be exactly how we want, especially if our goal is to try to make the most realistic sounding AI robot. Just on a side note, a lot of people might think, well, why do you want to create something that's super realistic? What's the point? I mean, you could just spin up one of these models, not care about the realism, just get to the point, take the information. My argument is this. I've had over 150 callers call this Amy demo line. It went absolutely viral. The reason our group has been growing so much on School, people have called the bot and they're like, this sounds more human than anything I've ever tried in my whole life. And I'm so sick of calling businesses and getting stuck talking to a lifeless robot. What you really want for your demos, you want to awe people. When people are done listening to your robot, you want them to go, that was incredible. Taking these features seriously, making sure you understand them so that you can take your bot from a B+ that anyone can make and turn it into an A+, it will go a long way, trust me. So for stability, we set this at 0.6 for Amy. Basically what that does is if you have a more stable model, it will come across as more monotone, whereas if it's less stable, it's more expressive. I like the sweet spot. 0.6 tends to be pretty good. Now moving on to clarity and similarity, what VAPI is trying to do here is match what the speaker sounds like when they're calling in. So if the speaker is talking in a certain way, VAPI, the voice AI here, will try to match that and make it sound more realistic. And so I like to have this pretty high, not too high, because if we have it too high, it can cause these things called artifacts, which are just extra data points that are erroneous in some cases and just not useful. Style exaggeration, I found with this exact voice we're using, Zuri, the New Yorker, you don't need to exaggerate the style. It's already pretty intense. Okay, we'll leave that there. Optimize streaming latency. We want as little latency as possible. So I put this all the way up to 4. I max that out. That's what I found to be the best. I recommend you do the same. Speaker boost, you can ignore this. I don't use it. I found it actually creates issues, so I leave that as off. Really quick, the reason we're using Zuri, by the way, this is very important. Zuri has a bit of an accent, as you can tell. So when you call in, it's like, wait a second, I'm more focused on the fact that it has a New York accent than I am the fact that it's an AI. I've found with the more Siri sounding AIs, while they're perfect, they're great, if you really want to take it a step further and make people think that you're talking to a real person, add a little accent. Whether that's an Indian lady, a Japanese guy, whatever, that goes a long way. Another thing too here with the provider, we can play around with quite a few. So far, Zuri has been my #1 pick, but if you want a model with a little bit less latency, I found second best to be PlayHD's version of Melissa. You can see up here the latency decreased 900 milliseconds. That basically means that somebody, when they call in and talk to your AI, it will respond in less than a second, or at least it should. That's not always the case, but it should. Another provider we're gonna look at here is Cartesia. I've been pretty impressed with Cartesia, although it's not my favorite. I think it does a pretty good job. You can play around and maybe see if you can find a better voice than Zuri, but please, that's up to you. There's some funny ones like the Southern Man. That's pretty funny. Where's the other one? There's one with a pilot over the intercom. This is all obviously up to your own preference, but it can be pretty funny to just go a step further and have a really good sounding AI voice. Okay, so functions. This, I'm not going to be doing a video today on this, but this is really important to understand in the future. They recently kind of dissolved the old function feature. You can still use it, but they've made this new feature called tools. And this is where you can integrate with Go High Level and Make and have those custom integrations where you can send an SMS to someone's phone, or maybe you can check the weather using the AI or the time, those kinds of things. I will make a video separately on that. Right now, the goal is just to give you a baseline to get these models up and going as quickly as possible. So here you go. Let's continue. Tools and custom functions, we'll skip over that. I like to turn on enable end call function. I find it just gives it a little bit more of a human feel when they're able to turn off and hang up the call. Dial keypad, I leave that off. So this right here, forward phone number, is where you can actually set up a number for a human operator. If somebody's talking and they're like, maybe they're talking to somebody at the front desk and they're trying to do something that an AI can't handle, like, hey, I left my phone at the dental clinic. If you're implementing this with businesses, most of the time you're gonna have to use something like this. Okay. End call phrases. The one I used for Amy was pretty simple. I didn't want to make anything too complex, but I just said, hey, goodbye. Talk to you soon. I mean, if you're in Australia, I guess you'd say like cheers, right? Mate, something like that. Okay. Oh, it's too long. Haha. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that there. We're not in Australia. Okay. So I'll come back. Let's go to advanced. Now this is interesting, and we'll talk more about this later, but right now we have audio recording enabled. If we were servicing a dental clinic, for real in this case, we would be using HIPAA compliance. And I'll show you and explain all the functionality and everything we'd have to do in order to still be able to hear those logs, because there is quite a step-by-step process. Because right now, as it is, obviously when this is enabled, you can't hear those logs, but there is in fact a way, if you're interested in getting into the healthcare niche, where you can still hear the logs so you can refine the model, and it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't even hear the logs, I don't know what this AI is doing for this hospital or this dental clinic. It's not like that, thank goodness. I probably spent the most time tweaking these settings here So for silence timeout, for Amy, we set it at, I think, 25 seconds. It's about, yeah, okay, 26. Response delay, we don't want a response delay here, so this is the time that the assistant will wait before it actually responds to the user. You don't want that, you just want it to be as quick. Again, we talked about this as quick as possible, so that we'll set that to 0. We also have an LLM delay, so we want that also at 0. Again, no delays. Interruption threshold, so I've actually found it has this here by default. I originally had it at 1, so that if a person says something, it will immediately pick up and be like, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, you know. But if you have it at 1, again, with the background noise, it might pick up somebody's name in the different distance or somebody talking, and then it'll pick that up and go, oh, what were you saying? And you don't want that. So I think a sweet spot is minimum 2. And if somebody speaks 2 words with this setting enabled, obviously, then they'll be able to interrupt the bot and say what they want. Okay. Maximum duration. This is interesting. You customize this for your purposes. For our purposes with Amy, we just wanted to spin up a demo, let people try it out. We obviously don't want people to get on and start talking for an hour because that's my poor bank account. So we set that at about, what did we set that to? Let me see. Yeah, we set that to 300 seconds. It's about 5 minutes. Now continuing down here, we're not going to touch this today, but this is for another video. This is basically the server. If you're doing, again, some make.com integrations, you'd be using the server to send messages to. And you can set up those client messages, maybe like getting the weather or certain function calls. That's all configured here. It's actually pretty simple. It looks a little complicated. It's really not. It's not too hard. So for voicemail message, I left this as default. Simple. And call message, actually, what we did for Amy is we set this up to be, we wanted to make it sound a little bit more realistic, so we put, have a great day, and if you have any other questions or need anything, give us a call and we'd be happy to help you. Yeah, it's already filled in there. Perfect. So last things last, we've got some idle messages here. So if the user isn't speaking for some reason, or maybe they put down the phone, you want it to obviously be realistic, so you can just put in this feature where it goes, hey, are you still there? Or, hey, I'm ready to help you whenever you are. For Amy, all we put is, are you still there? That seems to be good. The sweet spot, I did play around with this for quite a bit. The sweet spot seems to be max idle messages 3. I like to have it at 4. And then the idle timeout, actually, I like that a little bit lower, so around 6. This is the amount of time at the idle timeout that the AI will wait before it says something to the user if they're just going quiet. So it'll wait about 6 seconds. If there's still nothing, it'll go, hey, are you still there? Great. Perfect. All right, so we've covered most of the functionality here. The last thing we're going to do is look at the analysis. So for Amy, we actually left this all as default, but if you're curious and you want to know what these things do, it's important to understand. So for summary, we have this prompt here. What it does, it just comes in, it says, okay, you'll be given a transcript. It's an additional prompt to the LLM. So when you're going through and looking at the call logs, it'll just say, okay, this is Matt called in, he was asking to get his teeth pulled, and he scheduled an appointment at 2 o'clock. So just a quick overview. I like to leave that as default. This is interesting feature, success evaluation. For Amy, what we set this up to be is it would be kind of a pass-fail. And you have different options here where you can go, okay, based on a certain criteria, did the user do what we wanted him to do? If yes, then great. If not, then no. Sad. So for here, you can just leave it as default. But if you're spinning up a demo and you want the user to say something in particular, then it's important to actually write what you'd like. So for this one, we put, if the caller books an appointment, then the call was successful. Okay, that was just a simple use case. Is successful, perfect. And then we'll use the evaluation rubric. All we wanted here was a simple pass-fail, simple true if call passed, false if not. Okay, so if it's true if they booked an appointment, if they didn't, then it's a false. Just a simple way to quickly check. So moving on to the structured data, this is something you can use if you want to extract very particular information from the call. So say a lot of callers are calling in and saying, hey, they're being asked to give their information. Very classic use case. Yes, I live here. I have a problem with my AC. It started happening at 3 p.m. and my name is John Doe. Perfect. Now you could say, please please structure this data, with only the personal name, and now maybe if you're using this for an HVAC purpose, it would extract the data and say John Doe, issue, AC problem, time 5 p.m., location here in California. Da-da-da. Perfect. So data schema here at the bottom, this actually defines the various features that you'd want extracted. So name, location, data, and you can actually create these here, just like name of person, right? And it would be, and you can keep adding more, just what we basically said, but it actually formats it in this way. I won't spend too much time on this. It's not really important to our purposes. I'll delete that. Okay. So far we've covered the transcriber, the voice, the functions, advanced analysis. We've pretty much covered a lot of information here. I want to go back to the most important, I must say, the prompting and the knowledge base. And we will go through what that means for tokens, what that means for how to get the most out of your prompts, and also how do you actually construct the best knowledge bases. I have a custom GPT that you have free access to, and I also have a system where you get all of the information off someone's website, structure it super easily, and build it into the AI native within VAPI, which is great. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Here we go. So first things first, I'm just going to break down the cost for you. I think you're waiting for that. This is the VAPI fixed cost. They charge 5 cents a minute no matter what. Then you have the speech to text model. We already went through this. This is DeepGram, charge about 1 cent a minute. GPT-4o, it's saying it's about 0.04. It ends up being more than that, especially when we're done with the prompt. And then you have the text to speech here with 11 labs. So it breaks it down for you, and as we prompt and change the model, add information, it will fluctuate, and you can see exactly what is costing you the most money, and that's pretty important. You can see the latency here as well. Okay, we know DeepGram is responsible for a small bit of latency. What is the most? It's GPT-4o. We have a latency of 450. And yeah, these are stats for nerds, but you know, maybe some of you are nerds like me, so we can get into that. So here's where we would put in the system prompt right here. And I will give you the exact prompt I use when we're done here. Right, so when it comes to the system prompt you're going to be using for VAPI, I have 4 prompt techniques I use across the spectrum, always without fail. No matter what you're doing, you're going to have some variation of these 4 techniques, and here they are. Roles, rules, steps, skills. First thing I did with Amy, her role, very clear. Receptionist, first smile, dental, named Amy. Perfect. So this is important just to put this in. Next, what are her skills? All right, so this is, we have customer service, inquiries. Now, if you notice, as I'm writing out this prompt, the cost begins to increase. I don't know if you could tell. So one of the reasons that the cost increases when we add more words into the system prompt for VAPI is because we're adding more tokens. A token is basically a 4-letter word, or the equivalent of that. So the more tokens you add, the more it's actually going to cost you, whether you're using a ChatGPT API or maybe you're using Anthropic. A token is kind of a way to quantify the amount of money you're spending by the words you're producing using a large language model. And you can see that here. One of the things you want to do with VAPI is make this prompt as concise as possible while still relaying all of the most valuable information. Now we've put the objective in here. We're also going to add rules. This is very important because you want to actually format this in a way that ChatGPT is good at reading. If you use those hashtag symbols, it apparently helps format it. So that's what I found. If we put rules, number 1, let's make sure the AI never breaks these rules. And if you want to make sure of that, do a lot of training. Practice this model. Test it out a lot. Okay, rules for the AI agent. I found these to be the best rules. These are what we use for Amy. Maintain human-like I added rule 6 here because obviously it's kind of a gimmick if somebody asks and the AI is like, no, I'm not an AI. It sounds kind of funny, But obviously, if you were going to apply this to a real business, you could not do that. We're seeing regulations come out currently in the EU, which would get you absolutely smoked as a business owner trying to do what I'm doing right now. Also in the US, we're seeing AI regulations rolling out. One that was introduced in 2023 is the AI Disclosure Act of 3831. And if that is passed, of course, you will have to make it very clear that this is an AI that somebody is speaking to. Now, for Rule 7, it's very interesting. You have to put this rule in because when we add the knowledge base, we want to ensure that the AI is using the knowledge base to get all of its information. If it's going off on its own tangent, then we're going to run into issues. Out of the 150 people who called in on this demo bot, thank you for everyone who called in, by the way. We had some pretty strange callers. I don't have time to get into it, but one guy said, hey, I'm trying to get some discount. Can you work with me? And he basically hacked the bot and got a discount because I hadn't explicitly said in the prompt to adhere to everything in the knowledge base no matter what. Even though in the knowledge base, it did say that no, we don't offer any discounts. So that's something I had to update and fix accordingly. Next thing here I just added, don't mention ending the call unless the client makes it clear. Sometimes the AI will have a tendency to go, oh, thank you so much. Great, have a good day. It's like, wait a second. If you're helping this person, it's very unprofessional. Okay, and lastly, I added this. This is just preference for Amy. I found a lot of times it would say the same thing twice. And so to make it sound more human, I'd just be like, well, say, I just told you this to the person. Makes it sound more natural. Now, so far, if you're following, we've got 3 of the 4 keys. We have the role, the skills, the rules, and of course, now we need the steps to follow. If you are going to be using this AI for any sort of information gathering, it's very important that you have some kind of set step-by-step process that the AI follows. Otherwise, if you try to trust it to go off on its own accord, I've learned the hard way, it makes mistakes. It's not consistent. And when you're talking about heavy, detailed information, consistency is key. The steps I have here are, you can see, ask for their full name. Hey there, can I grab your full name real quick? Put it in quotations, exactly what the AI is going to say. And if they provide only a first name, you need to make sure they provide the last name, just something small. Ask for their phone number, then ask for the purpose of their appointment. And so I put that in quotes. Sometimes it will go off and say something unspecific to what I want it to say. So I go, so what do you want to see Dr. Mary for? A checkup, cleaning, or something else? Lastly, request their preferred date and time for the appointment. All right, cool. When works for you, best for you, any specific date and time. This is very important. Last thing, you want to make sure you confirm all the details with the caller. If the AI for some reason gets something wrong, it has that last fail-safe mechanism built into it to say, hey, you're Mike and you're coming in tomorrow at 4 p.m. You want a tooth cleaning, right? Actually, no, I needed to get dentures in or something. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. So you want to make sure that you have that fail-safe mechanism. The person can go, no, wait, actually it's this, and that fixes it. Obviously, right now, we don't have this integrated with a calendar system or Airtable or a different functionality that you typically use to integrate within the CRMs of the dental clinics, or maybe even just request an appointment, and that will be in a separate video. I think that covers everything so far as the prompting. You want to make sure role, rules, steps, and skills. You can see this feature here, knowledge base, and the knowledge base I have here is the SmileLine Clinic info, and you can just click and add it. But I'm going to show you how do you build this knowledge base, how do you format it, and lastly, how do you actually use it to save money? And this is a cool little tidbit. You can see our current cost right now, about 16 cents a minute, which is kind of expensive. So something that we can do is actually reduce the strain on the system prompt by adding some of that system prompt information into the knowledge base. I'll show you what I'm talking about in just a second. So in order to set up a knowledge base, what we're going to do, we go to the files area, and this is where you drag and drop your file. You can see my SmileLine info doc is already here. But let's actually just, for the fun of it, create a new knowledge base. I'll give you the exact structure and format, and I'll show you, right before we do that actually, I'll show you what SmileLine's knowledge base looks like. You can see, I'll be uploading this in the community anyway so you can see it. But yeah, I just have quick information, hours, closed on Sundays, general dentistry, preventative care, restorative dentistry. Here's everything that's offered, the exact pricing. We separate that, accepted insurances. I put this explicitly. And then some frequently asked questions that the AI can pull to when it's being asked these exact questions. Okay, it's not very long, pretty simple. But if we were to actually do this for real dental clinic, what you do, I'm gonna close that. What you do And I've built a custom GPT for this that you'll have access to if you want to use it. It'll save you a little bit of time. So let's say we just are looking for a dental clinic, I don't know, near me. Okay. And this is pretty cool. Let's say, I've already been to that one. Let's go to emergency dentist in Virginia Beach. All right, this looks pretty cool. We've got a lot of information here. I don't want to go through all of this information, obviously, and cut and copy and paste it and then format it into a knowledge base. You could do that, it would just take more time. So instead, what you can do is just go straight to this website here that we have. It's called To The Web HTML to Text Converter. I'll give you the exact link in the comments below. You can go here. And now all we have to do is just copy and paste this link up here from the website. It can be any website. Again, it can be a car dealership, it can be a movie theater, pizza shop, whatever. Plug it into this link. I'm not a robot. Convert to text. And look, here we go. We've got all of this raw data. Obviously, it's pretty all jumbled up and you wouldn't want to just throw it into a knowledge base and be repetitive and wasting space. So what we'll do is just go copy all text, copied it, and then we'll go to this custom GPT I have here, which you'll have access to again. It's called Knowledge Base Builder. And I'll just give it, here's the website, and I'll just copy and paste it right in. And it will build out the exact knowledge base that's optimized for VAPI language model setup. So let's go here. And look, we've got a full setup here. It's even got Markdown, which again, I explained earlier, that helps the AI language model better kind of format and understand what it's reading. It highlights it. Orthodontics, community involvement, contact information, operating hours, everything you need. How can I schedule an appointment? You can change that if you'd like. And yeah, so we have our full knowledge base here, and it's as simple now as just copied it, making a Word document, pasting it in. You can save that as a file. And once it's saved, we'll go back to VAPI, choose, file, and London Bridge Smiles knowledge base. Put that in, we'll upload it, click. Now you have a full knowledge base, and you can go back to the assistant now. Pretty simple. And put, okay, London Bridge knowledge, check it. And that's it. And you can add multiple files here if you wanted to. We could add smile line or as many as you want, which is very interesting. I'll put this back to 0. It's 6. And what's cool is, I mean, you can build a knowledge base off anything. You could build a knowledge base off Alex Hormozi and download all of his YouTube videos, put in the transcripts, organize them, and then upload them to VAPI if you want and recreate a knowledge base and recreate an Alex Hormozi. And you could even take some of that to go a step further, go to 11 Labs, clone his voice off a YouTube video, and now you're talking to Alex. I mean, that's pretty cool. Something I like to do with ChatGPT is kind of make a more human-like interaction by setting in some custom rules into the knowledge base rather than into the prompt. Now, many people might just go and copy these, like personalized greetings, empathy first. You could say complimenting, offer a genuine compliment. All of these things, and you could, maybe you'd be tempted to just paste this in to VAPI, right? And we could see what would happen if we did that. Oh my goodness, now we're at 21 cents a minute. That is a catastrophe. Can't do that. So we'll undo that really quick. And instead what we'll do is we'll go directly into the knowledge base itself. While it might be a little bit less reliable, I have never found that to be the case. And so I highly encourage you, if you have a lot of rules you'd like to add to the AI, try adding it to the knowledge base before putting it directly into the system prompt, and maybe even taking stuff that's already in the system prompt and adding it into the knowledge base to save you some of those cents. Now, in order to finish building this AI receptionist, in VAPI, it's as simple as hitting this one button, publish, and now all of your changes will be saved. You can go up to here and hit talk with Amy, and it will open a web interface and you can interact without actually having to go buy a number off Twilio or native within VAPI. But for the purpose of this, I'll go show you how to buy a number. I'll show you if we go over here to phone numbers, and you can see I have multiple numbers here for Amy, but you can go and hit buy a number and then just type in an area code. Maybe you're interested in 456, or you can import a number from Twilio or Vonage. Either way works great. I find it's just easier to go straight directly within VAPI and buy the number and make it work. So there you have it. You've just built your first AI voice assistant using VAPI. Congratulations. From here, it only gets a lot more fun. All the resources that I used in this video will be available in my school community. Please join. It's wonderful. If you're already in the school, great. Thank you for being there. If there's anything you need, please let me know. I'll be responding to comments. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day.